Okay, so I, male, 21 years old, attended a family reunion a week ago to celebrate my grandfather's birthday. My sister, female, 26 years old, arrived 3 hours late with her husband and 4 children. She loudly announced that she was going to give our grandfather a gift. Everyone thought it was something big, but it turned out to be a positive pregnancy test. She told everyone that she was expecting her fifth child. Despite our grandfather being a bit angry about the gift, everyone congratulated her. Afterward, my sister came to talk to me and our parents. She said that now that she's blessed again, she's ready to talk to me. I sarcastically told her to keep trying and walked away to talk to my cousins. She grabbed me angrily and demanded an apology. I refused and tried to walk away, but she insisted that I stop ignoring her and fulfill my obligations as her brother. Her husband also joined in and made the same demand. I told them that they were delusional and entitled to expect my help when she treated me poorly throughout my life. I said that she should be able to handle things on her own, especially since she chose her own life. I tried to leave, but she followed me outside. Before she could speak, I told her to shut up and stop ruining another birthday, like she did to mine when I was 16. After I left, my mom called me and told me to apologize to my sister and said that I owed it to her. She also told me to suck it up for the sake of the kids. She asked me not to tell our dad about her call because he hates playing favorites, even though she clearly favors my sister. Now, I have missed calls from my sister and my family is telling me that I was harsh. Am I the jerk for what I said? Edit 1. My sister is demanding an apology because several years ago she started making every event about herself. Since I was 16, she would blow out the candles on the cake or choose a gift. She would also open her gifts first at Christmas. During my graduation party, she turned it into an engagement party and claimed that I allowed it. On my 19th birthday, she gave me a Best Uncle Ever t-shirt and made the party about herself again by letting her child blow out my candles. I told her that it was a crappy gift, and she got angry and demanded an apology for insulting her and ruining her special day. I refused to apologize and we didn't talk after that. Even though my mom pleaded with me to reconcile with her so I could have a relationship with my sister and her kids, I refused. My dad also dislikes my sister a bit because my mom spoiled her too much. For example, my sister is 26 years old and still sings to her kids instead of giving them medicine because my mom told her when she was a child that her voice was healing when my mom had a fever. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. She is 26-year-old and still sings to her kids instead of giving them medicine because mom told her that her voice is healing when my mom had fever. What the F? Imagine being sick and your mom just sings instead of helping? That's so weird. Yeah, this woman definitely shouldn't be trusted raising 5 children. Comment 2. Not the idiot. Tell your mom you won't be apologizing for anything, and you absolutely will never ever babysit in any capacity. Also, tell your dad what your mom said. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a wild few days since the family reunion, and I've got a lot to share with you all. After the confrontation with my sister and her husband at the reunion, I thought things couldn't get any worse. Boy, was I wrong. The next day, my mom showed up at my apartment unannounced, demanding that I apologize to my sister. She went on and on about how I needed to be there for her and the kids, especially now that she's expecting her 5th child. I tried to explain my side of the story, but she wouldn't listen. She just kept saying that I was being selfish and that I needed to put my feelings aside for the sake of the family. I was so frustrated and angry that I ended up saying some things I probably shouldn't have. I told my mom that she had always favored my sister and that she had never stood up for me when my sister was making every event about herself. I reminded her of all the times my sister had ruined my birthdays and special occasions, and how she had never once apologized or even acknowledged how much it hurt me. My mom got really quiet after that. I could tell that she was upset, but I didn't care. I was tired of being the one who always had to compromise and put my feelings aside. I told her that I wasn't going to apologize to my sister and that I needed some space from the family for a while. After my mom left, I got a call from my dad. He said that he had heard about what happened at the reunion and that he wanted to talk to me about it. I was a little nervous, but I agreed to meet up with him for coffee the next day. When we met up, my dad surprised me by saying that he understood where I was coming from. He said that he had always felt like my mom favored my sister and that he had tried to make up for it by being there for me as much as he could. He also admitted that he had never really liked the way my sister acted, but that he had always tried to keep the peace for the sake of the family. We ended up talking for hours about our family and all the issues we had never really addressed before. It was the first time I had ever really opened up to my dad about how I felt, and it was a huge relief to know that he was on my side. But the relief was short-lived. Later that day, I got a call from my sister's husband. He was furious and started yelling at me about how I had disrespected his wife and their family. He said that I was a terrible brother and that I would never be allowed to see their kids again if I didn't apologize. I was so angry that I hung up on him. I couldn't believe that he had the nerve to call me and demand an apology after everything his wife had put me through over the years. I knew that I had to stand my ground, even if it meant losing my relationship with my nieces and nephews. The next day, I got a text from my sister. She said that she was sorry for everything that had happened and that she wanted to make things right between us. She asked if we could meet up and talk things out. I was skeptical, but I agreed to meet her at a coffee shop near my apartment. When I got there, she was already waiting for me. She looked tired and stressed, and I could tell that the pregnancy was taking a toll on her. We sat down and started talking, and for the first time in years, I felt like she was actually listening to me. She admitted that she had been selfish and that she had never really considered how her actions had affected me. She said that she wanted to make things right and that she was willing to do whatever it took to repair our relationship. I was surprised by her apology, but I could tell that she was being sincere. We ended up talking for a long time about our childhood and all the issues we had never really addressed before. It was a difficult conversation, but it felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders. In the end, we agreed to take things slow and to try to rebuild our relationship one step at a time. I told her that I wasn't ready to forgive her completely, but that I was willing to work on it if she was willing to put in the effort. As I left the coffee shop, I felt a mix of emotions. I was relieved that my sister had finally acknowledged her mistakes, but I was also worried about what the future would hold. I knew that it would take time and effort to repair our relationship, but I was willing to try. Thanks for reading, everyone. It's been a tough few days, but I'm hopeful that things will get better from here on out. Am I the idiot for confronting my parents about the unfair chore distribution while I'm drowning in studies? I, 19-year-old female, am currently staying at my parents' house while studying for my finals as well as entrance exams. I am currently waking up at 7 a.m. and immediately start studying with only a 1-hour break until 9 p.m., which is when I get to call my boyfriend. It's 13 hours of straight studying, and it's definitely exhausting, but I will get a 1-week break in 2 months right before starting my summer job. My 17-year-old male brother does not study, does not have a job, and just plays video games from the moment he gets home at 3 p.m. until the moment he goes to bed. He also has his own weekends. My brother is very talented at doing this thing commonly known as weaponized incompetence. He will purposefully mess up very simple tasks in order to not have to do them next time, and I even suspect he's punishing our parents for daring to give him chores. The most extreme example we've seen recently is when he poured bleach in the washing machine and pretended he didn't know the difference between bleach and laundry detergent. So when it comes to chores, my parents rely on me. It goes from cooking and grocery shopping to laundry and deep cleaning the house on weekends. I don't mind doing a few chores, but it takes me a few hours every day. Since I'm already on a tight schedule and my studies are the priority, I have to compensate by taking time off of the few moments I have with my boyfriend or sleeping. I'm not exaggerating. I am expected to cook full meals from scratch 3 times a day, grocery shop, we live in a rural area, and I don't have my license, so that's an 1.5-hour walk every time we need something, then tidy, clean, and vacuum a 3-bedroom house. Almost every day. I have deadlines coming up and I already don't have time to see friends or do any of my hobbies. My entire day is just chores. Studying, chores, studying, 5 hours of sleep. I'm exhausted while my brother just sits on his butt gaming. I feel like I barely get recognition for my help, whereas he gets congratulated for showering twice a week. Therefore, I confronted my parents a week ago. They explained that firstly, my brother was a minor, so he does not owe them as much, whereas I should feel grateful that they pay my rent at almost the age of 20. And most importantly, that he is so incompetent that explaining a task to him just takes more time than just doing it yourself, not to mention having to clean up the aftermath. Why bother? I'm convinced my brother is being dense on purpose. There is no way a 17-year-old does not know how to cook pasta, or that you have to put frozen food away in the freezer because if you leave it out in the open, it's just going to melt. And so I just told my parents that I would stop helping them out as long as he did not pull his weight in. I think I was almost immediately called ungrateful and childish. There's a ton of tension in the house right now, and things have not really moved on. Am I the idiot? Now, for a few comments before the update, comment 1, not the idiot. Both because of sexism and because in the big scheme of things, it's your future versus their inability to provide proper parenting. What will you regret not having prioritized in 10 years? Comment 2, not the idiot. Your parents are doing a bad job raising your brother. Get out as soon as possible. But until then, definitely don't walk miles every day to cook 3 meals from scratch. That's crazy. Now for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. A lot has happened in the past 3 days since my last post. The tension in the house reached a boiling point when my parents confronted me about my decision to stop helping with chores. They accused me of being selfish and not appreciating everything they've done for me. I tried to explain that I was just overwhelmed with studying and felt it was unfair that my brother wasn't contributing, but they wouldn't listen. My dad even threatened to stop paying my rent if I didn't start helping out again. I was so frustrated and hurt by their reaction that I ended up breaking down in tears. That's when my mom finally seemed to realize how much stress I was under. She sat down with me and we had a long talk about everything that's been going on. She admitted that they had been too lenient with my brother and that it wasn't fair to put so much pressure on me. We came up with a compromise where I would still help out with some chores, but they would be more evenly distributed between me and my brother. My mom also promised to start holding him accountable for his responsibilities and not letting him get away with weaponized incompetence anymore. The next day, my parents sat down with my brother and had a serious talk with him about pulling his weight around the house. At first, he tried to argue and make excuses, but they stood their ground. They told him that if he wanted to continue living at home and having his expenses paid for, he needed to start contributing. To my surprise, he actually seemed to take it to heart. The past couple days, I've noticed him making an effort to help out more. He's been doing his own laundry, cleaning up after himself in the kitchen, and even offered to go grocery shopping with me. It's a small start, but it's progress. Of course, this whole situation has brought up a lot of underlying issues in our family dynamic. Growing up, my brother was always the golden child who could do no wrong in my parents' eyes. They constantly praised him for his achievements while overlooking mine. I remember one time in middle school, I won first place in a big science fair competition, but all my parents could talk about was my brother making the varsity soccer team. I think part of the reason I've always been so eager to please them and take on extra responsibilities is because I've been trying to win their approval and attention. But in doing so, I've neglected my own needs and well-being. This past week has been a wake-up call for me to start setting better boundaries and prioritizing myself more. There's still a lot of work to be done in terms of repairing our family relationships and finding a better balance, but I'm hopeful that we're moving in the right direction. I'm going to keep focusing on my studies while also making sure to carve out time for self-care and the things that bring me joy. Thanks again for all your support and advice. It really means a lot to have this community to turn to during tough times like these. Am I the idiot for locking my doors after my sister-in-law used my home like a hotel? Am I the idiot for making my sister-in-law pay rent? A few months back, December, it's now almost May, my husband and I let my sister-in-law and her family, her husband, 13-year-old, and her 3-year-old, move into our driveway with their camper trailer until they got back on their feet after basically packing up their life and moving. We live in a rural place. They moved up from one of the biggest cities in our state. Ever since they've moved in, they refuse to pay more than $50 for rent. She's a traveling RN nurse with a sign-on bonus. I hate to assume that they have lots of money, but with the multiple trips to town and the UPS packages they get, I can only assume. They use our water, sewer, electricity, laundry, and utilities, even after claiming their camper is self-contained. They come into our house, eat our food, use all of our utilities, and have made a mess of our once beautiful yard that we worked very hard on, with their 2 vehicles and motorbikes tearing up our grass. They also refuse to let us lock our front and back doors. One night, my husband and I had a talk about it, and looking at our bills, they almost doubled in about 3 months. So we kindly asked her to pay $300 a month for rent. Wow, I actually have never seen grown adults throw such a fit. Screaming and yelling, ended up calling my mother-in-law and telling her I was kicking her out, which in turn got my mother-in-law very angry with me, basically blaming me for the whole thing, calling me multiple names, including calling me a effing BO and the C word. After a couple of weeks, they ended up paying us $200. Better than before, but not what we asked. We compromised. They stopped taking our food and being in our house constantly, but still using all of our utilities and such. Last week, when we were gone on a mini vacation, they flooded my laundry room. For context, our washer drains into a utility sink that can clog if not cleaned after each load, from lint/hair/ etc. We asked them about it, since it looked like someone shoved plenty of towels under the washer itself and baskets in our clothes racks. They denied everything, so now I have 4 bags of moldy towels and clothes and a somewhat moldy mattress. They refuse to help clean it or reimburse us for the cost of our now lost clothes. Their response was to buy a brand new combo washer and dryer for their camper that they run off our electricity, remember? Now they refuse to pay anything because they are now completely self-contained. So in return, I've locked my doors at all times, which means they again threw a fit. Now we are at a standstill. She's ruining my relationship with my in-laws since she blames me only. I really don't know what to do. Wait, Ita? Update. To clear things up, since I didn't word it right, my mother-in-law didn't call me names. It was my sister-in-law. Now for a few comments before the update. Comment 1. Not the idiot, you've been really reasonable and forbearing. Now they refuse to pay anything because they are now completely self-contained. Then they can get the F off your land and go pay rent at a campsite. She's ruining my relationship with my in-laws, since she blames me only. Your husband needs to step up and tell his parents what in a hole she's being, and tell her to get the F off your land. Edit, spelling. Comment 2. Not the idiot, but what exactly is your husband doing about all this? Why is he not stepping in when your mother-in-law shouts at you and telling her that he's just as fed up? Why is he letting his own sister treat your shared home as a free campsite? He needs to start taking the lead on this and stop leaving it all to you to sort out and take the brunt of the family's anger. Now, for the update. Hey everyone, thanks for reading my update. It's been a wild 3 days since I last posted about my sister-in-law and her family living in our driveway. I thought things couldn't get any worse, but boy was I wrong. 2 days ago, my husband and I decided to take a risk and confront them about the rent situation again. We figured that since they had their new washer and dryer, they might be more willing to pay up. We sat them down and calmly explained that we needed them to start paying the full $300 rent we had originally asked for. At first, they seemed to be listening and even nodding along. But then my sister-in-law's husband suddenly exploded. He started yelling about how we were being unfair and that they were family, so they shouldn't have to pay anything. My sister-in-law joined in, screaming that we were trying to take advantage of them and that we were horrible people. The argument quickly escalated, and before we knew it, they were threatening to leave and never speak to us again. We tried to reason with them, but they wouldn't listen. They started packing up their things and hooking up their camper to their truck. I watched in disbelief as they tore out of our driveway, leaving deep ruts in the grass and nearly hitting our mailbox. The fallout from this confrontation has been devastating. My mother-in-law called me later that day, furious about what had happened. She accused me of being selfish and not caring about family. I tried to explain our side of the story, but she wouldn't hear it. She hung up on me, and I haven't heard from her since. My husband has been caught in the middle of all this, torn between his loyalty to me and his love for his family. He's been distant and moody, spending hours on the phone trying to smooth things over with his mom and sister. I know he's hurting, and it breaks my heart to see him like this. As I've been reflecting on everything that's happened, I can't help but think back to when my sister-in-law first moved in with us. She had always been a bit of a busy child, always getting into trouble and relying on others to bail her out. When she showed up at our door with her family in tow, I had a feeling that things might not go smoothly. But I never could have predicted just how badly things would turn out. I thought that by offering them a place to stay, we were doing the right thing. But now I realize that we were just enabling their irresponsible behavior. They took advantage of our kindness and generosity, and when we tried to set boundaries, they lashed out. I'm not sure where things will go from here. My relationship with my in-laws is in tatters, and my husband is caught in the middle. We're left with a torn-up yard, moldy clothes, and a sense of betrayal that I'm not sure we'll ever fully recover from. But one thing is for sure, I won't be letting anyone take advantage of us like that again. We've learned our lesson the hard way, and now it's time to pick up the pieces and move forward as best we can. Thanks for letting me vent, everyone. It helps to know that there are people out there who understand what we're going through. If you like this video, you'll probably like these too. Also, while you're here, please consider subscribing. It's your support that keeps this channel alive and allows me to make better and longer videos. Have a great day.